I just want everybody to know that Sean's going to be out this week, but don't worry, he has a reasonable explanation. Yeah, the assignment, he just messed it up a little bit and ended up watching a Jamiroquai video on repeat. But you know what? She probably had the better time. Welcome to Half-Ass Movie Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Half-Ass Movie Podcast, a show where we put together a half-ass theme as an excuse to watch movies. My name is Adam Portress, and joining me today, he's currently falling down a Winamp screen simulator, Bruce Leslie.
Don't worry, Russell Crowe. I've went downhill a little bit since 95 also.
What are you talking about? He basically looks the exact same today as he did back in 1995. What are you talking about, Bruce? It's almost like the...
I'm telling you, it's uncanny how much our change in life has paralleled one another, myself and Russell Crowe.
Well, we are back, everybody. Sean is on the road this week and everything. He just couldn't make it back in time for us, but he'll be back next week. But it's up to Bruce and I to hold it down here because this week we're starting off a brand new series for the month of November. It's a month of reflection. It's a month of thanks. And I don't care what part of the world that you're from, there's no doubt that you, like every single sane thinking person in this world, is thankful for the long and varied career of one Denzel Washington. And this month, we'll be talking about a few of his films in a new series we call Thankful, the action films of Denzel Washington. And we're kicking it off this week with Virtuosity from 1995. Bruce, did this come across your desk at any point? Virtuosity?
I have never seen this, but if someone had told me that it was a movie about how dangerous sex doll technology could be, I would have seen it opening night. In your marketing. Now, I'm not claiming to be an engineer or an expert on marketing, but if you're marketing a sex doll that can repair itself, maybe don't have it depend on broken glass, because I don't care how you put it. Broken glass isn't something most people like to involve in their love life.
Can we be honest here, though? They really missed out on an Annie Lennox tie-in with this movie.
The song was a hit by this point.
By this point, you probably could have got it maybe even a little bit cheaper. Maybe it's kind of run its course and everything, and you just like, we need to bring back Walking on Broken Glass for this kind of thing.
I was heard over singing that in my undergraduate cafeteria a few times, but I cleverly would change the lyrics.
Man, we got another song. We'll talk about it as things go on here and everything. Before we do that, though, we do have to say a big giant thank you to the people that support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, and our top fives. This week, Bruce and I are talking our top 5 futuristic dystopia kind of sci-fi films. We're a little bit loosey-goosey with our kind of definition on it here and everything.
We talk about 5 interesting movies each. And zero overlap. Well, we had one overlap, but we called it audible and fixed it.
Yeah, there's sometimes you have to do that. But well, we won't even talk about that. I don't even want to spoil it because it's that good. So that's the cool part. Thank you guys so much for supporting this show over at patreon.com/HMP. Week in, week out, we really are so happy that you guys are on board. And if you can join up at any level, please do. Or tell a friend, review us on iTunes or over on Spotify. We're out on Facebook. We don't do too much on the Facebook there. But follow us on YouTube because all of our shows end up on YouTube. And I'm putting a lot of my unboxing videos and stuff like that I do on my TikTok up on our YouTube page. So you can kind of check that out there if you're not on TikTok, or just follow me on TikTok, and the link will be in the description.
And seriously, if people want their finger on the pulse, they want to know everything that's going on, just go over there entry level on Patreon and you'll know what's up.
Yeah. I mean, it's as easy as that. And I'm thinking about let me put this out there to everybody. Because Patreon's pushing people to go for the yearly subscription and stuff like that. I'm thinking about putting something together. Let me know if you guys might be interested in that. So just as a pay once for a year thing, and then kind of get access to all the other stuff, and then we can maybe add in a couple other extra thoughts and ideas. I'm bashing around a couple ideas in my head. If you tell us what your thoughts are by emailing us at halfassmoviepod@gmail.com. We got a letter a little bit later here in the show, so don't worry about that. All right, let's get into it. Here is the IMDb plotline for Virtuosity. As we know, IMDb 100% correct in everything they say and or do. When a virtual reality simulation created using the personalities of multiple serial killers manages to escape into the real world, an ex-cop is tasked with stopping his reign of terror. This is written by Eric Burnt, who previously wrote Surviving the Game after Virtuosity. He did Romeo Must Die, that Jet Li film. He also wrote the story for Highlander Endgame. He wrote Vegas Baby, starring Kyle Penn and Donald Faison. You remember that one, don't you? No? Okay, fair. He also wrote the remake of The Hitcher, and in 2018, he wrote a screenplay for a short called Sid 6.7. Russell Crowe did not return for that film. It's directed by Brett Leonard, who did The Dead Pit, speaking of which, The Lawnmower Man. Tons of music videos, including many for Peter Gabriel. Highlander, The Source, you've never heard of that one, doesn't really exist. And he was, get this, the director of this movie was an uncredited, this is tough to say, uncredited clown performer in Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, that is a credit that I want put on my tombstone.
That's a weird one. Where it's just like, oh yeah, I was a killer clown in outer space and everything, and then I went on to direct Virtuosity. This is starring Denzel Washington, Russell Crowe, Kelly Lynch, Steven Spinello, William Forsythe, William Fichtner, Louise Fletcher, Tracy Lords, Michael Buffer, and a baby-sized version of Kaylee Cuoco. You know, that penny girl from The Big Bang Theory. Oh no, you like her from The Flight Attendant from HBO. I know that's more your speed. But yeah, man.
8 Simple Rules.
Oh, was she in that show? I don't know that.
I think so. I never watched it. I'm trying to act like I'm cool by knowing all about that cool show that all the cool kids watched, but I didn't watch it.
Were all the cool kids watching that in 2004? Was that what?
Oh, all the cool kids watched 8 Simple Rules.
Okay. That's if you say so.
I wasn't cool, so I was just stuck watching the local news and PM Magazine.
This guy over with his PM Magazine. Stop talking about PM Magazine. Trying to bring it up into every conversation. All right.
Sorry.
So basically I love how this movie starts out, and for especially a movie in 1995 that is kind of dealing with futuristic stuff. I don't want to say the internet per se, but for lack of a better thing, I'm going to call it the internet, because the internet in 1995 doesn't exist like we know it today. But if it did, you know, it would work in a lot more so than what we do here. Because we never, I don't even think the word internet's mentioned. Am I wrong?
They do say something about like disconnecting all the phone lines when they want to contain him on one mainframe. So they kind of allude to networking, but I don't think they actually mentioned the quote internet.
So we're kind of pre-internet age.
I took it as more like Wes Craven's Shocker Rules. Oh
yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
but and let's be honest, this is about the level of Shocker, though. If I'm honest.
He did not exist in the cloud. He existed on what I guess they thought SD cards were going to look like.
Yeah, it looks like more like the old like the 8-track player tapes and stuff that you would see in radio stations that have all the cart stuff on it.
But then they pulled a little cube out that just looks like some really fancy dice from a D&D store.
Well, you say fancy, but that the dice, which is I guess is their personality or something, or their memories, or what exactly is that? I don't know that
it's their virtual soul is what I took.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they blend all the different character traits together into one person, and that nugget is their personality.
Personality nuggets. I always, it's the best.
That's the new special.
Can I get a 6-piece of personality nuggets, please? Honey mustard. I'd appreciate that. The idea, this starts out like it doesn't hold your hand. That's what I was going to say. This movie doesn't hold your hand in a world where, and especially at a time when they were really starting to spell stuff out in movies to you all the time. This movie just goes, all right, we're dropping you into this, what we eventually find out is a virtual world and everything, with these guys in these kind of futuristic looking weird leather cop uniforms and stuff like that, and they're walking around what seems like, I don't know, Japan or something like that.
It just seems to me like what honestly, like a little bit of a brighter lit Blade Runner future where, you know, there's the idea that the West Coast was all going to be owned by Asia for some reason.
Oh yeah. Well, there was definitely a ton of that, especially like from the 80s and stuff like that. You see that influence like Blade Runner.
So I get the idea it's like New Tokyo above San Francisco or something.
And everyone is acting a little bit odd and strange, and you're not quite sure why. But and again, maybe they're counting on all of the trailers and stuff like that, because I do remember, that's what I remember about this time. So 95, I'm like 13 or something like that, 12, 13. And I'm not going to go see an R-rated movie because my parents were responsible and I was a baby. So I was not, but I remember seeing these commercials all over the place because they were wildly colorful and all this kind of stuff. And it just seemed like utter madness. And watching it and stuff, it kind of is that. Like, it was exactly the trailer and stuff that I was kind of sold, in 1995, waiting up for this movie and everything. It is what they sold me, I think.
As a person who was had basically just entered his 20s in 1995, I can tell you this was a nice trip down nostalgia lane. Like, this is what we thought the future was going to look like. Like, nothing about this felt cheesy at the time. As bad as bad CGI, we thought was cool. Like, the fact that it's bad was part of the appeal. I don't know. It's just hard to describe it, I think, to people if they didn't live through it. But for, a guy in my demographic, and I suspect Sean's, it's just a nice vintage trip, much like if we were to rewatch Lawnmower Man, a nice vintage trip down towards the old vector graphics that once ruled the world.
Yeah, exactly. And that was what was kind of interesting at this point, because being this 1995 and Jurassic Park already coming down the pipe. And here's the thing, I always say that that's kind of your real honest to God watershed moment, is that, like, if you have a decent enough budget, after Jurassic Park, your CGI should not look like crap. It should not. And this
I put
movie,
the blame on T2, which I think might have been a year before, but I can't remember.
It's got a little bit. There's some to be sure, but like this movie is just like, it's not cheap. This movie was $30 million to make in 1995. That's a buttload of money.
And let's talk a little bit about this, because the box office was 37 million.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's in the range, which is almost like the worst box office to have if you feel ownership of the film.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's the kind of box office that is immediately going to be followed by an explanation that even though it looks like the film made money, it really didn't. Like, nobody's just going to say budget was 30, box office was 37, and leave it at that.
Oh, look at that. We made $7 million. No.
They always feel the need to make sure you understand, no, this movie was not a success. Like, I would rather have one that budget's 30 and it made 15 million, because nobody needs an explanation.
Yeah, they just go, oh, this totally took a dump. It's no good. Forget about it. But this is just like, oh, people saw it, but they did not give two craps about it. And I think it is just kind of that, like, it was the technology and stuff like that. I think that might have just kind of turned people off, because it's like, I don't know what this is. Like, again, no one knows what the internet is in 1995, because for all intents and purposes, it doesn't really exist. It does, but it doesn't.
Is this movie an inverted Tron?
Oh, that's an interesting spot, because instead of us going into the computer, it's the computer coming out to the real world and everything.
Instead of the user becoming a program becomes a user.
Yeah, I like it well enough. So that's what's kind of cool about this, is that, like, so once we get out of that first initial thing, that, like, even if you don't know that this is virtual reality, you sense that something's not quite right here before the reveal and everything. I like that, because it's, again, not telling us anything, going like, well, what's happening here? And then they go, oh, it's virtual reality. I like how we look slightly different. Denzel's got, like, kind of just longer hair there and everything in the actual real world and stuff like that. Did you know, and I don't know what you know, have you played any of the Assassin's Creed games?
No, I've seen the Assassin's Creed movie, though.
Well, there's an element of that that's kind of like this as well, like, because they kind of incorporate both into that movie. And I don't even know that movie, but I've seen enough from it to where I know that they kind of put some of this in there, to where they're doing, it's like a virtual reality thing, more or less. They're sending these people kind of back in time, if you will, through these sort of VR things, where they are kind of suspended in stuff in the air, very similar to what you see in this movie. So I watched this and I was just like, this felt very Assassin's Creed kind of thing, where you're in this virtual reality thing and you're kind of floating in the air and your limbs are kind of like, out and strewn out and stuff like that, like they were in this film and stuff. So I don't know if maybe I'm just pulling some crap, but that's what I thought when I saw it. I was like, oh, this is very Assassin's Creed-esque here.
Now, talking about, I guess I'd like to talk about a few members of the cast before we get to the big two.
Yeah.
But some of the supporting cast, how if you may have felt no way at all, but how do you feel about Kelly Lynch, particularly Kelly Lynch from this time period? Because Roadhouse, Cocktail, a couple of 80s classics, but she's sticking around a little bit in, mid 90s here in this movie. And I feel like she's playing just totally different kind of character from what I would have considered her to be typecast as, which is the woman that the tough guy has to win or whatever in the bar from Cocktail and Roadhouse.
Yeah, like I think she's fine. I think the character is unfortunately wildly underwritten. Now, and this might go into more of the film itself, but William Fichtner said 90% of his role was cut out of this movie, so I wouldn't be shocked if, many of her stuff was, cut out as well.
Yeah.
So perhaps that may be part of the reason why the character isn't as good. She's serviceable, but like she seems like she's kind of window dressing and sort of needs to be there for particular plot purposes and stuff.
I was never a big Kelly Lynch fan, just to be honest. I mean, I liked her well enough because she's in Roadhouse, and Roadhouse was a movie that I had dumb fun watching a ton when I was a high school kid. But I never would have said, "Ooh, let's check out this movie because Kelly Lynch is in it." I always felt like maybe she had a connection that was getting her the roles. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt about her.
Yeah, she's just fine. She's almost neither here nor there kind of thing.
Now Louise Fletcher, on the other hand, talk about somebody whose role feels underwritten. You tell me I'm going to get a chance to see Louise Fletcher in a scene opposite Denzel Washington, and then I get this.
Yeah. It's like
she really doesn't have much to do.
She feels less like her and more like Tyne Daly. I know that sounds funny, but
no, I totally get it though. Like,
am I not wrong?
Was she Cagney or Lacey? But yeah, I get it. I'm getting Cagney and Lacey vibes from her.
Yeah, it's you don't feel like she's as important and demanding of a person that that she can be.
She's an Oscar winner. At this point, her and Denzel had both won supporting actor Oscars. So like they probably get to sit at a special table in the lunchroom.
Seats taken.
Nobody's given Steven Spinella a trophy.
No, by the way, so I'm watching Steven Spinella. What did you think of this performance?
I think it's perfect for this movie, which is to say far from perfect.
I liked it well enough, but you know what I kept thinking the whole time while doing this is that
what's that?
We needed to actually have Tim Blake Nelson in that role.
I'm going to tell you who I was thinking, just because this movie is already, in my opinion, a lunatic asylum on display. I was kind of thinking take out Steven Spinella and put Gary Busey, 1995 Gary Busey in there.
I don't believe Gary Busey runs any of this. I barely believe Gary Busey would be allowed on the premises.
Okay, Jake Busey. Jake Busey in there.
Jake Busey's 14 when this movie's going on.
Christopher Titus in there. So Steven Spinella.
So he's probably 22 at this time.
Okay.
Your choices for these movies are real weird. I don't know if we're going to be putting you in the casting department.
There's another red-haired guy, man. Now I'm just going with red hair.
So we
There's
got
a guy, Mitch something or other, that has red hair, right?
Sure. Mitch Hairberg. See what I did there?
Oh, yeah, Mitch Red Hairberg.
That's awful. So as far as like your tech goes here and everything, we're having to strain a little bit of credulity, but I like it well enough, and especially in the time with which we're living, in the quote unquote threat of AI and stuff. That, I don't know, it puts a little bit more spin on this kind of movie, doesn't it? Or at least brings a new kind of flair to it.
I could picture this whole thing being on an Oculus Rift type setup. They go a little bit more into Ready Player One territory because their setups have you able to run and everything with the full on like tactile thing. But I could see them just putting in like a floating chamber with a virtual reality mask on. Absolutely,
yeah,
I could see this.
Listen, I like, so you've done a little bit of the VR, hadn't you? Yeah,
we've got a couple of Oculus Quests or whatever in the house.
Yeah, I have a fun time with VR. It's one of those I don't play it nearly as much as I'd like to, mostly because you just got to have the space. You got to set up some space that you can kind of move around and stuff like that, and that's always more of a hassle than you want to. You're like, all right, move this out of the way, move this out of the way, because you need your space. You got to explore the space.
Definitely.
But I love our representations of virtual reality in the 90s and stuff, be it like this kind of stuff. At least with this, we're seeing it as like a photorealistic kind of thing and stuff. At least we've got that, and we're not going into that full like Lawnmower Man with just the graphics throughout everything. It's like that would have just been an absolute mess.
Yeah, it laid down sort of what I would call the blueprint that the Matrix is going to use. When you're in the Matrix, let's make it almost impossible to know that you're there. Let's make it ultra reality, and let's not give all the vector graphic stuff. And they kind of, I think, laid down some things here that really would influence the Matrix, which is a much more influential film in the long run than this one. But I do think the Wachowskis would have been familiar with this.
Oh, for sure. And all they did was just steal from, science fiction and anime and stuff that happened in the past. They admitted that, way back when and stuff like, oh yeah, we like all this stuff and we just pulled from this, and this and smacked it all together. Well, you did a good job. Good job. But yeah, this one, at least with the technology and stuff, I'm forgiving of it. I don't really care, but I do enjoy the fact that like we get this guy out of, for lack of a better word, the Matrix, which is also a stupid idea that how we're training police officers and stuff like that with this kind of virtual reality thing. But you've just there's no safety protocols on any of this crap where they could just, I don't know, turn it off. We never turn off anything in this movie. We just kind of keep letting it roll, and they're like, I don't know. But he comes out of like almost like an alien egg or something like that. That's kind of how he's like birthed out of there and everything.
It looks so much like the alien egg. I mean, it looks so much like it that it makes me wonder if they just kind of went to a Halloween store and had an inflatable one available or something.
Dropped over to 20th century lot there and just like, oh, we can just spray paint this and that'll be.
I was thinking more like Hot Topic, but yeah.
But it's so weird. But and again, this is so it's 1995. This is before Russell Crowe's kind of big hit. 95 was actually his kind of year and everything. Because
I mean, he was pretty. I don't know. I think it's fair to say pretty much an unknown in the U.S. at this point. He had done Romper Stomper in Australia, but wasn't this like his first U.S. release?
It's the big one. Because there were two that came out in 95. I'm trying to remember, or 93,
because I know the one that gets the credit with kind of launching his career is L.A. Confidential.
Right, so L.A. Confidential, and that was Quick and the Dead. That's the other 95 one.
Okay, with, Quick and the Dead. He's another supporting role in that one. Yeah. I kind of forgot that he was in that one actually.
Exactly, because he's
Sam Raimi flick, a good movie.
Mm-hmm. So both the same year. So I'm just gonna say like 95 was like his kind of like establishing America, and then like you said, L.A. Confidential in 97 was when he kind of like hit that big time there and everything, and we were like, oh, who's this guy? And then, just a couple years later, you're getting, Oscar nominations for like The Insider and Gladiator. So he's doing all right. And then the guy basically just becomes a stalwart of cinema as a whole and just doesn't disappear. I love him in this. I remember, like, again, seeing the trailers and everything.
I'm glad that you do, because we're disagreeing. I don't like him here. And I'm a pretty big Russell Crowe fan. So usually I'm defending him, but this time I'm not. I'm doing the opposite of that.
They've crafted him this kind of perfect look with his hair and the makeup and everything, to where he is like, I buy him as a weird robot or computer character kind of thing, this weird amalgamation. What he's doing and how he's acting throughout this is kind of selling that, like, I'm a human, but not really. I'm still kind of that sort of program kind of deal. And I don't know. There's just also the way that they light everybody like this, but especially like him. There's a special little light in his eyes and stuff that just kind of makes him look more kind of, evil and robot-y, if you will. And I know he's not a robot per se, but it's for lack of a better word.
Something almost unnatural Max Headroom about his hair, like a rubber hair helmet appearance almost too.
Yeah, it's so stiff and kind of perfect and everything.
Yeah, very inhuman, very much like a graphic on a computer.
And let's talk about this, because this is obviously a huge thing. What did you think about all of our wardrobe selections?
I was a fan.
Because he has got some, I love the idea that that this computer program and everything is coming out and says, you know what? I want to be fancy. I need this fancy, purple suit here and everything. And then walk out to to some Bee Gees here in that perfect Saturday Night Fever shot. Like literally the Saturday Night Fever shot with the song playing as we look at his shoes, panned up to the face and everything. It is literally the shot from Saturday Night Fever. It's kind of great. It's stupid. It's dorky, but it's also so quintessentially 90s in that way because that's just kind of what we did. And we did it all the time.
How about the decision to have Denzel wear that strange wig in the beginning when he's a prisoner?
I like that. I think that's good. I think it looks pretty good on him as far as...
I thought it looked very, very, very fake.
Oh, no.
I didn't believe for a minute that was his hair.
Well, of course you didn't because you know what that man looks like. But it's...
Fair point.
It's not that bad. You know who I thought it was at first? And this is bad.
Oh no! Wait! Let me try to guess.
Okay.
You thought it was the blind guy from that TV show Becker?
No, but you're not far off.
It's the same hair.
Yeah, it's the same hair. But you remember the black guy from Showgirls?
Is he a pimp? Because the only people I know that drive pimp cars are pimps.
I don't know if he was pimp, but he was kind of.
No, that's a line of his from the movie.
Oh, I don't remember.
Trying to impress you with how well I know Showgirls by quoting a line from the actor you're comparing to.
Whoops. I guess I'm just
Verhoeven
not.
fan.
I guess I'm just not near. Yeah, it's all for this the commentary and nothing for the jugs. I understand you, Bruce. I get
My
it.
two favorite things are Verhoeven and Saved by the Bell boobies. So they came together here.
Hey, listen, it was a magical time for me in my young childhood. I'll tell you that much.
I watched it with a Belgian exchange student, and he loved it.
I love this movie because it is that great genre, the One Last Job or Work Your Way Out of Prison genre. Those are always fun to me. I don't care if it's like this or like The Rock or whatever. It's just called, we got one more job for you to do, and then you're out. And you're
to me, was I reading too much into it? Because to me, this felt so much to be like a parallel of Demolition Man, where, it turns out he's got the personality programmed into his AI of the killer who Denzel's character is the only one who could put him away. So they have to essentially thaw him out. Only instead of thawing him out, they're bringing him out of the virtual reality hard labor that he's doing in prison. I just felt like they thought, you know what, we're going to take the plot of Demolition Man, only this time the black guy's the cop and the criminal's the white guy. Like it feels a lot like Demolition Man to me, except not as much Taco Bell.
No, not nearly as much. There should be more at least, but
take out the Taco Bell, put in the UFC for the corporate plug. Because that was actual Ultimate Fighting Championship logos and copyrighted material at that era.
Oh yeah, and this is pre, I forget the name of the company that initially bought them and stuff like that. But this is like
it's pre Dana White.
Yeah, it's that pre Dana White era of UFC and everything where we're still literally cats are rolling into the octagon wearing jeans and punching each other in the nuts for 15 minutes, and we were just like, that's fighting, everybody.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
I don't know. Let's see what else we got here. I got so. What do we think about? What do you think about because we'll be talking about it plenty this month to be sure. Denzel pulling out kind of his bag of tricks, if you will, his Denzel Washington's isms, if you will.
Denzel, if he were a chef instead of an actor. Mm-hmm. He'd be the kind of guy that would have the talent to go into your backyard, somehow pick a few things that are growing in your compost pile and make a delicious dish out of it. He is still able to sell me with his acting in this movie. In this, I'm just going to go ahead and show my hand a little early in this very poorly written and directed movie.
It's not it's a stupid, crazy, far afield sci-fi action film and stuff, but he's not playing it like that. He's still going at it with his, full force and everything. He's just he's still acting here. This isn't I'm doing some silly sci-fi things. No, I'm still going to be Denzel Washington in this. You're still going to get my Oscar caliber, performance out of me, even though it's in something that, was put together for.
It doesn't matter if I'm talking about my dead family in Glory or my dead family in Mall Cop 3. I'm still going to bring the heat.
Yeah, and he absolutely does. There are moments in here where where I was watching, just going like, "You ain't got to be working this hard, not for this film. What are you doing, man? Pump the brakes just a little bit. You're giving these guys way too much for what was clearly not the best of paydays here and everything." I love that he's a cop in jail. I thought what did you think about like how they kind of designed the jail? This is the first time I've ever seen this, where it's basically like frosted glass instead of like bars, and they're all behind it, and we're seeing like shadows and stuff, as opposed to like actual bodies of criminals. And
I feel like it was one of those situations where they tried too hard. I mean, they just tried too hard to think, what would a futuristic prison look like? And they would have been better off to just have like a modern day prison with maybe retina scanners to get you in and out of the bars or something. You know what I mean? Like they just tried too hard.
Yeah, and there's so much trash in there. Did they put like a Sears catalog in every one of the cells there, so they could just start ripping out some paper and flooding the hallway there and stuff when a fresh fish or a cop or something walks by? Why is there so much damn trash? Who's giving them this trash?
It's dystopian.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, you're not going to know it's dystopian if there's not trash on the ground and stuff like that. Come on.
That's the dystopian.
I will say this though. This sounds awful, but Denzel can take a hit on screen. He sells it so well. I don't like seeing him get hit because he sells it so well, and I'm just like, no, don't hit that man.
I mean, have you seen the man do anything poorly on
No,
screen?
not really. I
mean, I've never seen him dance. Maybe he's an awkward dancer. Imagine if they remade Footloose and cast him in the Kevin Bacon role. Maybe not the best idea. But
I think at worst, if Denzel was to be a bad dancer, at worst he dances like a middle-aged white guy. At worst, he probably is better than that. But at worst, he dances like a middle-aged white guy, which is like our simulated boxing dance.
If
keeping it nice and tight.
If you cast him in a movie, is his singing voice closer to Hugh Jackman or Russell Crowe?
Oh, I bet you
Russell
can
Crowe,
sing better.
famously bad singer.
I think he could sing better. He can sing better than Russell Crowe, and
but not as good as Hugh Jackman.
Oh God, no! I mean, listen. I don't think there's an actor in Hollywood who's probably as good at the singing there. That's not like No, I was trying to come up with some other ones. I'm just like, no, I don't even think I can come up with any other. I think he's probably, at least as far as males go, is going to be your best singer in Hollywood today. Who's doing better than that? Who's doing better than Jackman? halfassmoviepod@gmail.com.
If somebody like Hiddleston could pull the singing out of their repertoire and we just don't know about it.
Well, he did.
Josh Gad, actually. Josh Gad surprisingly made his way in musical theater. Thus, he can hang with Jackman on stage if you're doing musical theater.
He can. I'll put it this way: Josh Gad can sing, but can he hang with Hugh Jackman? Come on now.
Listen. Rumor has it that Josh Gad is very, very buff in the off season, but he chubs up for a movie season.
Also, that's the biggest load of shit I ever heard in my entire life. But the bigger load of shit than that is the fact that if you think that's terrible, a worse idea than that was they were like, hey, everybody, we're going to do Spaceballs 2. And everyone's like, oh, shit, Mel Brooks going to do another Spaceballs? They're like, yeah, Mel Brooks is going to direct another Spaceballs. Like, fucking A, that's the best news I've ever heard. And they're like, and Josh Gad's going to write it. And I'm like, put a gun in my mouth.
Oh, that's the worst around here.
That is the worst idea I could ever imagine. Give Josh Gad Spaceballs 2. Why don't you just give him the nuclear codes? What a bad decision. Ugh.
He's probably my son's favorite actor. So
your son needs to. Your son. Oh my God! I need to go. I'm moving into your house, Bruce. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna do the thing that's father that you didn't do. We're gonna teach these kids that Josh Gad is not the way to go in life. You can do so much better.
Really good in the Book of Mormon.
Go for Jackman. Go get over the Jackman train. That's the train you need to be going on. You're going on the wrong. Listen, they might be parallel tracks, but one is in another direction. You want to go in the Jackman direction, my friend. Get on the Jackman train. You don't want to. Wake up at 48 and look at yourself and go, "Shit, I'm Josh Gad."
I've been trying to encourage him to be more William Forsythe and less William Fichtner, but I'm afraid he's going in the Fichtner direction.
How much does he say motherfucker? Because if he says that a lot, he's going towards Fichtner.
Oh, man. William Fichtner is just
Now, William Fichtner's
he's a face you can cast, man.
No, Fichtner's actually the cleaner guy. Forsythe's is the cursor, because if you look at any William Forsythe movie, they're half of his paycheck is to say MF. I don't care if it's in this movie. I don't care if it's in a Rob Zombie movie. You are getting William Forsythe to be absolute trash, and he's that in this film. Fantastic. You know, when he's got a mustache, he's even badder.
What year was Braveheart made?
96, 7, maybe. That's a guess off the top of my head. I don't. Now you're making me look it up.
Yeah, it's 1995, same year as this movie. Okay. I just looked it up to be sure. And the reason I wanted to know is because the name of William Fichtner's character is William Wallace. And what are the chances we get two William Wallace flicks in 1995? They're so different.
I think we just solved the riddle here as to why his role got edited down so much. They were just like, oh my God,
William Wallace.
He's making a what now? And it costs that much money. Mel Gibson. All right, fine. All right, just cut Fichtner's part down, please.
Mel Gibson had more pull in Hollywood than Fichtner.
Only a touch, but
I'll tell you, Fichtner don't like you. You don't work.
Mm-mm. So we got Kelly Kyoko. I'll never pronounce her last name correct there and everything, as the little girl. I thought that was hilarious.
I don't think it was necessarily hilarious. I just thought
it's funny it's funny that we got this little tiny character in here that's just like who looks like her but nothing like her at the same time.
It's kind of like when you watch the movie where Kristen Stewart's a little kid. She's Jodie Foster's daughter in The Safe Room.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, Panic Room.
Yeah, Panic Room. That's it. I couldn't remember the name of the movie, and I was afraid you were going to say it was named Safe Room, because I do that sometimes. But anyway, yeah, it's like when you watch that, and you kind of can tell that it's her, but then you kind of can't. It's kind of cool. And then the same way with What's His Nuts there with the braids too, Leto.
Oh, yeah. And she's, but like she is clearly just that I don't want to say MacGuffin. That's not like the real word here, but she's the thing that we have to
become a MacGuffin though.
She has to sit on the bond. Yeah, exactly. Plot coupon. That's the perfect word, because like all of a sudden we need to have something to where someone's life is in danger, and if you can make it a little kid, that's going to be even better. And there's something about hooking Denzel Washington up with like little blonde girls that we've been doing since '95.
Was Man on Fire? Was she blonde in that?
Yeah.
Okay, because I couldn't quite remember the little girl from that, but that's suddenly what I started thinking is like this was a dry run for Man on Fire,
which I mean is one of my favorite Denzel Washington films. The fact that we'll cover that at some point. We're not covering it within this series and stuff, but I'm sure that's what Sean thought I was going to cover this month, and normally it would be because I do love that movie so much because Tony Scott's awesome.
I think there was one touch, and I'm being serious here. There's one touch here that shows more than anything that this movie was not out to cut corners. Because if this movie had been starring, let's say, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal instead of Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe, you don't have Michael Buffer saying, "Let's get ready to rumble," because that costs you $100,000 right there.
I don't know if he had a copy. I don't know if he's copywritten it at this point in time and everything.
But it's still him doing it. I mean, they didn't cut any corners.
Well, let's be honest. If you really think about it, they kind of did cut a corner. Because you know who it's supposed to be, as far as I'm concerned? Bruce Buffer. Bruce Buffer does all the UFC announcements. You know who doesn't do any? The other Buffer. That's right.
Because he's the more expensive Buffer. He was doing WWE or
WCW. But he was doing all the boxing and stuff like that. He was, he was like introducing your Tyson fights and all that kind of jazz.
Here's your trivia. Here's your trivia for the day. Bruce Buffer and Michael Buffer might not actually be related.
Bullshit. No way.
That's it. Now it's a kind of a rumor that they're like kayfabe brothers, but they met and their voices were sort of alike, and they wanted to like keep anybody else from moving in, so they did like a Gallagher 2 thing. But Bruce Buffer may not actually be related to Michael Buffer.
I don't know. They favor a little bit, maybe. I mean, maybe I'm talking about that. Maybe I've just convinced myself. It was one of those
things where they're like, "Man, we look so much alike, we could say we're brothers," and then they did. And they're working around wrestling. That's not unknown.
Yeah. Hey, listen,
Arn and Ole Anderson, not really brothers.
No, those two they look like they came out the same womb at the same time. What are you talking about?
Anyway, if nothing else, at least I've started a great conspiracy theory. But
Yeah.
it says Bruce and Michael Buffer met for the first time in 1989. And the way it happens, Bruce Buffer's dad saw Michael Buffer on television and said, "Oh, that's your brother. I forgot to tell you," and then introduced the two of them. That's what it says in Wikipedia.
That's the new 30 for 30 everybody's looking for.
Bruce became Michael's agent, and then they worked to form a company and grow their business, the Buffer Partnership. But I'm really, really liking the story that they actually are not brothers.
They're calling it the Buffer Zone. It's absolutely terrible. Special effects. The special effects are decent in this movie. Like I said, they're not that kind of Jurassic Park level here, but they're not as bad as like Lawnmower Man 2, which looks like it was put together for a nickel.
This was a time where you didn't have a lot of range on CGI, so your big budget Hollywood CGI and your made for TV movie CGI were not that far apart. And there's a certain nostalgia there.
Yeah.
It's like stop motion, like the Harryhausen stuff was the best it got. And then you got some lower end stuff you could see on TV, but they still all look like the same level of technology. Just some of the sculpts were prettier than others.
Yeah, and then you had to like get into go motion and stuff like that. That's like stop motion, but a little bit different. So it's like just smaller iterations on those kind of themes and everything. One of the things that helps this movie a lot, and it should at the $30 million budget that it has, but the production design to this movie is pretty good. Like all the futuristic stuff, all the things that he's touching and stuff, that it's all like kind of like it reminded me of a lot of like Existenz. Do you ever see that? The David Cronenberg flick where they've kind of got futuristic video game and it's all like organic-y. Like imagine grabbing a PlayStation controller, but it looks like a placenta with buttons.
That's very Cronenbergian.
Yeah, that's pretty.
The only problem I would have with the production design isn't the production designer's fault. It's a little bit more probably the writer and director's fault, but it felt like when I was talking about the prison, it feels like they just did a little too much considering it's supposed to be 99. Like it's 4 years in the future. And I just felt like they did a little too much.
Yeah, because we've lived 25 years past that, and we know that's a load of crap.
Haven't changed some of the things. It's always funny because they expect our prisons, something that makes absolutely no profit in theory, to be all high tech, and yet the TVs are still CR, cathode ray tube TVs up on the wall. Like they don't realize the stuff that makes a profit gets better. Our prisons are the same as they were in like 1865, I think.
Now we need more of that face-off kind of prison where the boots are magnetic and stuff. Like that's what we need more of that crap. Honestly, going on.
Demolition Man figured out prison. You just freeze the bastards in carbonite till their sentence is up. It's the most humane way to do it.
Oh, speaking of, again, they kind of did the same thing with Minority Report. Another Tim Blake Nelson reference. If you go check out our Dinger Zone, everybody. That's how you keep them. Just like I said, freeze them in carbonite, put them into things so they can't get out. Don't let them be all ruckus. It's the future. You can feed them through a tube.
And you could even argue like it's the easiest way to do it. Nobody guards aren't going to be getting stabbed. You're not going to have to deal with like healthcare expenses.
Perhaps it's also the more humane thing to do and everything.
Right, because it's just like taking a nap for the priser. It goes by in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, you wake up and you're
years of their life.
Yeah, it's like listen, everyone you've known and loved is dead, but hey, at least you're alive and it didn't last long as far as you're concerned. It was just a nap.
It's just like you took a nap. You probably dreamed a lot, but you have to find a way that they still age at the natural rate so that's their punishment. It's like you go in at 25 and you come out 47. Doing that after one night's sleep, that'd be hard on a soul. I can tell you. It was rough on me, and I did it the natural way.
I think this movie needs at least 25% more Russell Crowe butt.
You know what? You're not wrong.
He's like, good for you, Russell Crowe. He's like, listen, don't nobody in this country know me. I'm just gonna go all out here and not give a crap. It looks pretty good doing it for 1995, and we're not taking HGH like we are today.
Russell Crowe looks like the kind of guy that probably has a body hair distribution not unlike mine. So what I want to know is how long it took to wax his butt cheeks before that scene, because they're nice and shiny. You don't want hairy butt cheeks on a scene like that. But I just feel pretty confident that in its natural state, his cheeks are not smooth.
Yeah, and he comes from a computer, so you kind of got to have him like not have a whole bunch of body hair and stuff like that. It wouldn't make a lot of sense for some reason. I don't know why that's true, but like if a hairy guy came out of a computer, you'd be like, that bullshit. No. But if he comes out smooth, you're like, all right, I buy this. I can understand this movie now. Yeah, I like it.
What if it's instead of Russell Crowe, they cast Ron Jeremy, and that gives a whole new fear to life.
I do like how like Denzel's character, like he just knows that like the guy who killed his wife and kids is like that personality is within this character, and that's why he's got to go after. Like that's why he's finally got to make that decision and go to run the last thing. And it's like he's taunting me. He's taunting me. Like he's got 78,000 killers inside of his personality and everything, but it's this one asshole that killed his kid that comes out and just kind of goes, "I got you, boy," or whatever his little taunting threat is. He's like, only he would ever say that. It's just so bad, but I love it so much.
And you kind of wonder who thinks it's a good idea to take all the worst serial killers and mix them into I understand that the point of this was a game to train cops or something.
Yeah.
But you even name the enemies sadistic, insane, and delusional. I don't know what SID stood for. Dangerous, I think, was the D, but it's like something awful that it stands for. And it just seems like, I understand you got to make your training seem realistic, but maybe you don't use live nukes when you're just practicing.
Or at least have, you don't play Silent Hill and hope that you can, have some of those characters come out into the real world and join you. No, you want to keep them inside of the video game. So you don't develop a thing that could let the artificial intelligence form itself and then start wreaking havoc. Perhaps that's something you shouldn't have put into the plan here altogether. Maybe what was the plan?
I think all virtual reality should have just a slight suggestion that that the way humans are treated in WALL-E is what they should go to.
No, yeah, I do like how but there are some interesting things here as far as like getting the helmet taken off of them and stuff like that. We almost developed some rules, but not quite. We do that better, of course, with the Matrix and everything, because if which I like, if you're in the Matrix and then like your the core thing gets kind of just taken out of the back of your neck, you're just toast.
Yeah,
because it's just disconnecting you from the system, and if your brain, so to speak, is within that system, there's a complete disconnect and you're dead. We don't quite work with something like that here, and it's like I almost wish they did, because when she goes over to kind of just take him out of like he's falling in some kind of, like I said, Winamp spiral, if you will, and she just rips it off of his head and he's fine. It's just like, I don't know, in the world of VR, the way that we're setting it up here, it feels like that at least should kill him, but doesn't. It's just like, no, well, he's out now. He's fine.
Yeah, they kind of dropped the ball a little bit on stakes, but they did bring the killer into the real world, which suddenly turned stakes way up over those in a virtual world. So I'll give him that little slip up, since they did bring him, over to the other side like they did.
Yeah. Well, let's hit the old mailbag here.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Bale's here.
So we got an email here from our buddy Nate. Nate writes, "Hi guys, I'm excited about Denzel month and had never seen Virtuosity before. I had two questions maybe you can help me with. First, the technology aspect of this movie did not age well in my opinion, but was it received well at the time?" I'll let you answer this question because you're a little older than I was at that point.
People thought it was maybe the worst movie Denzel had ever made at the time.
But as far as like tech and everything goes, like it just did it scream kind of like futuristic sort of stuff, or like screaming bullcrap?
It looked just like all the other stuff in contemporary movies, like the old Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone. I mean, it's like right on par with that. So it didn't really stick out, but also we were far less critical. We didn't really analyze things in '95 the way that we would even just 10 years later.
And it was from the director of Lawnmower Man and stuff too, so you would probably suspect this would be on par with that. I would surmise, but I mean, this cost a lot more than Lawnmower Man, to be sure.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just kind of feels like appropriate for the time, even though it's silly. But it's like when you watch episodes of Riptide and the things they thought you could do with just an old TRS-80 desktop computer. You know, it just feels like that, where people didn't know what computers or technology was yet.
How do I send an email? What is an electronic mail? I don't. Very confused.
You have to go down to the electronic post office.
Get my electronic stamp. He writes, second, is William Forsythe the poor man's James Remar, or is James Remar the poor man's William Forsythe? Loving the new format. That's from King Solomon's Frog.
I think William Forsythe has more juice than James Remar in big picture.
I think so too.
Because didn't they have one of those like primetime soap operas forever or something, like was a big moneymaker back in the day?
Who, James Remar?
No, William Forsythe.
I don't know.
I don't either.
I'm not.
William Forsythe, not a handsome fella.
No, James Remar's better looking. There's no doubt there. But
Justified might be what I was thinking of.
Forsythe, listen, I'm going Forsythe. Forsythe's probably the higher one within this group. James Remar, not for nothing's maybe a little more television-y. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little bit overcritical.
The stuff that impresses me with William Forsythe is television too. Boardwalk Empire, Justified. Those are the two primetime soap opera type things I was trying to think of.
I just remember him being just like a henchman and an asshole in like every film, and then like he's just like he's this always disgusting hillbilly in every Rob Zombie flick, and you know it's just what he do.
Yeah, and he was in Raising Arizona.
Oh yeah, one of the early ones there. So our big question is Denzel doing it in this role? How's it? How's the performance? How comparatively to other Denzel properties and stuff? How's he doing?
My only critique is that he did just a little bit better than this movie deserved, which had the jarring effect of reminding me that he really owed it to himself to have chosen a better project this 6 weeks or whatever time he spent making this. But Denzel, man, he's great. I don't take that as a knock against him. I just wish he had made almost any other movie than this one during the time period in which he made this one.
I don't know. Like, I think it's fine. I think he's doing, like you said, he's at least giving it 100%, even though the thing that he's giving 100% to may not be the toppest of notches here and everything. But he's having enough fun with it. And I think between what he and Russell Crowe are doing, it makes up for a lot of the little shortcomings of the movie.
Here, if we're talking about making the movie work, and I'm not just talking about Denzel's role and Denzel's performance, but as far as making the movie work, you don't have to improve the quality much. You put Will Smith in it, changes the whole movie. I think he plays off Russell Crowe well, and this suddenly becomes a more memorable, bigger hit.
Yeah,
which is sad, but true.
Mm-hmm.
I think at least.
Yeah, Russell Crowe's got more to chew on with this, and he's got the more showy role, to be sure. And I think
nothing to lose. I mean, he's trying to make his breakthrough.
Exactly,
and that's already got a career.
That's what's
already got an Oscar.
Exactly. That's what's so fun about it is like, I think he also at the time realizes, hey, I'm going up against an Oscar winner, actor here and everything. Denzel is super hot right now. I'm just kind of coming up here in America and everything, so I feel like he felt like he had something to prove here, and he brings in a really weird, interesting performance to something that could be awful and really just dumb. And like I said, the movie's not great or anything, but like given what you have with what you have, it could be so much worse. It could be so much worse than this. And I think it is that the fact that we've got, a decent enough director who, when you look over his career and everything, he's kind of just like, he's not like an amazing director, but he's had enough of a decent little run here and there of stuff and enough TV and whatnot to where you're like, he did all right. And you can understand this was his biggest thing. And maybe it wasn't, maybe he wasn't the guy to do this,
He also did maybe one of the worst comic book movies ever made. So he's had an up and down career.
Hey, listen, you do what you got to do. Now, if you did have to recast this role, do you have anybody in mind?
For Denzel?
Denzel's role, because we're talking Denzel, yeah.
Will Smith.
Will Smith's going to be way too young in 1995.
Well, hadn't he already done Independence Day?
But he's still too young, though. He still looks like a kid.
Yeah, you're probably right.
He's still too, because even Bad Boys was like
Bad
a real
Boys
tough
was
sell.
1995. It was this year.
Yeah, and even then, like for example, within Bad Boys itself, Will Smith had not really even like sold himself as an action star yet. Michael Bay told him, "Listen, for this scene, I want your shirt unbuttoned." And Will Smith was just so out of shape and everything at the time. He's just like, "Listen, man, I'm very self-conscious. I can't do this." And he's like, "You listen to me, and you listen to me right now. This is going to be the shot of the film. Unbutton your shirt." And he did it. He looked awesome. And but so it's that same kind of it's that same sort of deal. You got somebody to kind of prove, but he wasn't the Will Smith that we all know just yet. So I don't think that he could have taken this role, especially as like your former cop here and everything. He looks like he's 19.
Is this too close to Demolition Man for Wesley?
Wesley wouldn't be a bad choice, I don't think. You know who?
We're still pre-Blade, right? So he's still available.
You know who oddly was talked about for this role?
Who's that?
Michael Douglas.
If we're going in that direction, I don't know that he's who I'd want. But if you're going 1995, you're going white cop instead of black cop. There's just so many choices out there that fit that it just becomes a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Oh, and well, speaking of a whole different conversation.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Well, you say that. Did you know that Arnold Schwarzenegger was actually talked about for this, but they could not afford him, obviously.
Well, yeah. But the thing is, they said that they couldn't afford him, but had they paid for him, they would have made more money.
Yeah. Oh,
so go to the bank, get a loan when it's Schwarzenegger on the line.
Cool thing about this movie is we've got Denzel chasing Russell Crowe, and years later in American Gangster, we would have Russell Crowe chasing Denzel Washington.
So just for fun, who would you recast as Russell Crowe's character as the symbiote?
This is tough because he is doing some weird stuff here that I don't know that too many other people could do. And that's why I remember the trailer and stuff so much, because he had a very unique and interesting look about him, the way they did the hair and the makeup, and like he wasn't a guy that you saw all the time. So it was just like, who is this? And like you almost believed he was from a computer. 1995. I'm gonna say Eric Stoltz.
And if you're making this movie today, it's Kevin Hart and The Rock.
Oh, for sure. You wouldn't want it, but that's what they would do to it. You wouldn't want it,
but
real
though, if they were making this today, I wouldn't mind seeing Isaiah Washington and Tom Hardy.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I could see that, and I was just thinking about like when you said that for President Day, I'm like, well, his kid is as good I don't want to say as good an actor as he is, but he's because he's different.
He's worth a shot though.
But he'd be good in it. I've loved everything that I've seen the guy in so far. So I like his father, big fan. Was he?
I believed he was a rapper.
Hey, listen, he's of a certain age. At some point, if you're a black guy in America at a particular age, you probably had some rapping under your shoes at some point. You're a white guy
too. I mean, it was pretty universal.
This is very much true. Nothing made me want to die more in a comedy set, and I'm sure you've seen this, where a guy would stop and be like, "I'm gonna rap now." Oh my God. Die so hard. I've seen it several times where a guy will go through, he'll have like a 5-minute set, he'll do like 3 minutes, and then for the last 2 minutes he's gonna do a comedy rap for you, and it's as bad as you could ever imagine every single time. You just want to like collapse in on yourself like a neutron star. Just be like, God, get me out of here.
All the listeners at home, look out for dollar signs coming to a comedy club near you.
Yowzer. All right, well, we got to ask our big question here. Movies only come in two forms. Bruce, Virtuosity from 1995, art or fart?
I hate to say it, but this one's a stinker. I got to give it a fart. Two of my favorite actors in the lead roles, and they couldn't save this stinkerooski. So I blame it all on Louise Fletcher for just not showing enough skin.
And that was. I think that was Ebert's biggest complaint. Not enough Louise Fletcher skin. Listen, this movie's not good. It's fart, but it's not the worst of farts. This is kind of a fart where you're looking at somebody in the car and you're like, dude, what are you doing? And You don't really have to roll down the window or nothing like that.
It might even be a pull my finger where you know it's coming, but you do it anyway.
Yeah, it's just one of those. You're like, hey, I got a secret. What? And you like know what's coming down the pipeline, and you're like, damn it, I can't believe I fell for that one yet again. That's what this is. You just kind of like, oh, this feels like this is going to be a really great thing for me to do, and then you're like, well, I guess the elements were there, so.
They can't all be winners.
No, they can't all be winners. And that's why I kind of wanted to go back to this because, like I said, I remembered, seeing the trailers and stuff like that. It was always a Denzel movie that I'd skipped, and especially being an early Russell Crowe film, I'm like, let's finally get a chance to sit down and watch this bad boy. And I'll say this, while it may not have been the best movie in the world, I am kind of glad that I watched it and got this one, under my belt.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, you can join the conversation about two of the greatest working actors of our time by mentioning a stinker that they made.
Exactly. Not everybody's seen that stuff, so check that out. And right now, at least as of this recording and everything, it's free on Amazon to stream, so you should be easily able to check it out if you're interested. Well, that is it for our first entry into the thankful Denzel Washington. The action movies of Denzel Washington list is underway here, and everything we got next week's coming up. Bruce, give us a plug. Tell us something.
Just go check out Werewolf Fighter. Halloween may be over, but the love of a good film isn't. So go check out Werewolf Fighter on YouTube. Bruce Leslie, Anime Dad, Werewolf Fighter. The 38 minutes of your life that you'll be glad you spent with me.
I really thought you were about to just absolutely pitch it as 38 minutes of your life that you'll never get back. And I was just like, I don't know.
About going that direction.
It's like, I don't know that that's how you want to sell your film.
What they call an audible in the old sports world.
It's like, I'm about to take a dump on myself, but I'm going to take a quick juke to the right here and just dodge it. That was smart on you. Good job. Check out me on TikTok, everybody. Follow Adam Portress. You know what my name is, and the link there will be in the show notes here and everything. I did a 31 Days of Halloween Horror where I viewed a movie every single day of the week, talking about horror films and stuff like that. I'm doing a couple of unboxing of DVDs and other fun stuff that's out there, and making rude and inappropriate jokes. So follow me over there on TikTok. I really appreciate that. And follow H&P over on YouTube. Just search up Half-Ass Movie Podcast on YouTube, and we will show up there. Subscribe to that, and leave a couple comments. Leave a like. We really appreciate that. So nice of you. That is it, everybody. Next week, we are going to Sweet Shanzi's selection here and talking about a movie from 1998 called Fallen, starring Denzel Washington and I believe John Goodman, if my memory serves. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but I really enjoyed this flick as last I could remember. Been quite some time.
It's been a while, but I think it's a good one.
So we'll be discussing that next week, everybody. So that is it for the absent Sweet Shanzi Kovacs from the internet. Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress, reminding you that the only difference between art and fart is an F.